Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to talk about hacking. If you're not secure against hackers, you are leaving your business wide open. We'll talk about that with a cybersecurity expert next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, it seems like every day we're hearing about another hack attack, and they are hacking the big boys. I mean, the national brands that you recognize, they're even hacking the FBI, and they're being breached. If the FBI can't protect itself, what happens to the small business owner? Well, the best thing they can do is hire somebody like my next guest, Shay Jackson. She is with Dase Cyber Solutions. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for inviting me.
Well, we need to talk about cybersecurity because I think it's gotten more complicated with everybody working from home. Now it's not enough to just secure, your mainframe computers at work, but what happens when the employee gets a phishing email, clicks on it, you can compromise the whole network, can't you?
Absolutely. And, educating employees is the #1 way we can help with defending against ransomware attacks. It seems like we think about technology and investing in that, but not in the people. So it's like giving them a popsicle stick to a fight where there's people who have heavy artillery like AK-47s, but we're fighting with popsicle sticks. We need to educate our employees. They're our greatest investment to defend against ransomware attacks.
And the hackers stay up at night. They only have to be right once.
Right, exactly.
To break in. And sometimes these phishing emails look really legit. Like if I'm getting a note from my bank, it really looks like my bank.
It does, but there are some things that I show people what to look for. Even I was reading an article yesterday about Netflix, Disney Plus, and also Amazon Prime and them getting emails, but there are things that people can look at to see if it's truly a valid email or if it's a hacker trying to get their personal information.
And you educate your consumers on that?
Yes, absolutely I do, because again, like I was saying before, educating them can reduce significantly the amount of successful ransomware attacks and also the malware that's able to enter in systems like you talked about. Did you know that over 90% of malware is able to go into systems because someone clicked on a link in a phishing email?
Wow, that's unbelievable. Let's talk about ransomware, because we hear about hospital systems, like their data gets frozen and they can't access it. Well, when you're dealing with life and death, you've got to have that data.
Yes, absolutely. And there are a lot of solutions, but again, it should be people first, processes, and then the technology. And when we talk about ransomware attacks, it seems like it's such mystique and mystery behind it, but it's really simple. I'm not saying there are not some complicated things, but there are things that organizations can address so that they can be safer, like performing a risk analysis, just like you talked about with hospitals getting breached. One of the things that is huge among the healthcare industry are medical devices that have operating systems with Windows 95. Well, there's no support. Adversaries know that, so that's a way that they could get in. Being able to protect your network, there are some things that you can do, but if you see it as, well, it's a ransomware attack, or like I told you with believing that IT and cybersecurity are the same, it's not. We have to address it, but we have to be knowledgeable about it.
Sure. Do most IT professionals know how to protect their system, or are they're schooled in one area of computer science?
Good question. Not really. There is a very little overlap. I was in IT, Jeff, and I clicked on a phishing email. So with IT, you think of hardware, like printers, the network, software, but when it comes to information security or cybersecurity, we look at the security controls that we can apply. And I'll give you a good example. So I read an article in Dallas News about an IT person who deleted about 8.7 million archive files. Well, they shouldn't have had the permissions in order to do that. That's something that we do in cybersecurity. We look at identity, what's called identity and access management, least privilege. I'm only going to give you permission and authority for things in order to do your job. He shouldn't have had that much access in order to delete that many files. Only the data owner of that information should have.
Let's talk about passwords because
Oh, that's a good one.
so many people use password as a password, or
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Or winter 2021.
Yeah. so what's your advice on passwords? How do you?
Good question. So with passwords, again, it's the people, right? So now there are applications that come up with complicated passwords, but people can't remember that. So what do? They'll write it on a sticky note, and they'll put it under their keyboard or somewhere on their desk. And if someone is walking through, it's easy for them to get it. My suggestion is, think of what your favorite song is. Think of a favorite color. Instead of a password, think of a passphrase. So that way, it's difficult for people to think of, okay, what could be Jeff's password? You know what your favorite song is, or a favorite town, or something like that. It's easy to remember, so you don't have to write it down. It's automatically in your head. So not password, passphrase. Put some numbers in it, and it'll be difficult for someone to be able to hack into your system.
Outstanding. Do you go into companies and coach employees on how to protect the company?
Yes, sir, I do. And we talked about phishing emails. I love security awareness training. I love educating people. One of the things that I say about cybersecurity, there's such a mystique and a mystery behind it. Let's pull the curtain out from Oz to see who they really are. There are things we can do to educate, equip, and empower employees so that if they see a phishing email, or if they get that text, if they get a call, or even when we talk about passwords, things that they can do to be able to help defend against ransomware attacks.
Awesome. Well, what's it like to engage you when somebody calls you up and wants to invite you in?
Yes.
Do you do an audit, or what's the process like?
So it depends. Like I told you, I like educating employees, doing security awareness training. I also do risk analysis as well, and it depends on what level of risk management that company wants. Is it they're looking at compliance? Like for instance, I have a specialty in HIPAA security rule. Are you trying to meet that compliance, or are you trying to get a baseline to really understand where your security program is, what threats and vulnerabilities are there, so that you can address them. So there are different levels depending on what the company wants.
And you really want people to call you proactively. You don't want people
Yes.
to call you after they got breached.
Right. Yeah. So one of the average cost for a small and medium-sized business when there's a ransomware attack is $1.85 million.
Wow.
Most small and medium-sized businesses go out of business within 6 months because they can't afford that. That's downtime, that's potentially paying a ransomware attack, not their brand, everything, their reputation.
Yes.
Being proactive, like you said, is key, knowing there are things. And when we think of being able to apply those security controls, it seems like there's such a big budget you need, but there are some things that companies can do that are very minimal cost. Even small businesses, even solopreneurs, that can protect their business. And like you said earlier, in the headlines, they're always about big companies, but there are smaller companies, there are mid-sized companies getting attacked every day. And it's key because they are into a network where you can get into a big company. We saw that with the supply chain management attacks.
Yes. We've only got about a minute left. What would you like to give as a final thought to the audience?
Don't take the phishing bait.
And they've gotten so clever. So we're going to end with your website, DaseCyberSolutions.com. Shay Jackson.
Yes,
doing
sir.
things the Shay way. All right. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Jeff, so much for inviting me.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.
you.